If you are ready to stop feeding your baby overnight, but the idea of doing it feels like it's going to create an insane amount of chaos in your house and you have no idea where to start, this video is for you. So let's talk about how we can do this gradually and naturally and not make it feel like you are taking something away that your baby actually needs, and instead feel really confident about how you're going to approach it and know that you're doing it the right way and supporting your baby every step of the way. So before we jump in, I am Marli. I'm the owner of the Cradle Coach and the Cradle Coach Academy. We have supported over 5,000 families in getting better sleep over the last 12 years, and we also train sleep consultants to become certified and do the same thing that we do, so we know what we're talking about. Okay, so I'm going to break down 6 specific steps and things that you need to do every step of the way so that you walk away from this feeling confident and ready to actually implement. So number 1, before we jump into anything, you have to make sure that your baby is actually ready for nighttime weaning. Sometimes that means going to your pediatrician, chatting with them, making sure that your baby is on the right growth curve, that they're gaining weight effectively, that they are doing well overall health-wise. In many cases, you may already have this information. You're probably going to regular doctor's appointments anyway. You know that your baby is gaining weight well. You know that there are no major issues. And so you know that you are ready to go. But if you have any concerns or any hesitations about it, or you're questioning whether it is the right timing or your baby is ready, definitely chat with your pediatrician first. So once that is done, we can jump into step 2. Step 2 is where we're going to assess your daytime feeding schedule. Now, this is going to vary from baby to baby, and this is going to vary depending on your child's age. But we need to make sure that your child is getting enough to eat during the day. This is where we always say every single thing that we do, we are making sure that your baby is set up for success. We're not going to do something crazy and change things all around if we don't know that your baby is actually ready for it, and if we're not doing the things that we need to do to set them up for success. So here's what you need to know about this. Every single baby has a certain amount of caloric needs on a daily basis, just like we do as adults, right? We know how much we need to eat on a daily basis in order to maintain our current weight, or for a baby in order to continue gaining and growing. And so that doesn't mean you're tracking calories, but it does mean that you need to understand they need to get a certain amount of food in on a daily basis, whether they are eating solids, or they are exclusively breastfed, or they are exclusively formula fed. You probably have a roundabout idea right now of how many ounces of formula your baby needs on a daily basis, and or how much breastfeeding time they need on a daily basis. And if they are eating solids, then how much of that they are needing on a daily basis as well. If we look at your baby's total nutritional intake, and we see that overnight right now they're eating about 12 ounces of formula, and then during the day they're eating another 20 to 24 ounces. Then we add that together, understand how much they are needing in a 24-hour period, and then we're going to do our best to shift those nighttime calories and ounces to daytime so that they are getting what they need during the day and they're not actually needing that feeding overnight from a nutritional standpoint. What this is going to do is not only is it going to set your baby up for success where now they're getting that caloric intake during the day, but it's also going to make you as the parent feel a lot better about things, because I know for me, whenever I was going through this process with my kids, I was constantly questioning, like, are they actually hungry? Do I need to feed them? Are they getting what they need? And so once we have that solid understanding of what they actually are getting currently during the day and during night combined, and we're able to shift those extra ounces or calories or breastfeeding time to daytime, then we can rest easy overnight once we start the weaning process in knowing they're getting what they need. They're not freaking hungry. They probably just need comfort. They probably just need something else. And now I can feel confident being able to wean my baby knowing that they are set up for success and they're getting what they need. Okay, so once we have that established, we know that we are shifting those calories, we're working on getting in more during the day, we're going to move on to the next step. This is where we continue to do things exactly how you're doing them right now. Yes, we're going to shift more calories to daytime, but overnight, you're not going to change a single thing. So here is exactly what you're going to do. If your baby wakes up in the middle of the night and you would normally feed them, you're going to feed them. You're not going to change anything with how you approach that. The only thing you're going to change is you are going to pay super duper close attention to how they are handling that feeding. Are they actually actively feeding the entire time that they're eating? Or are you starting to feed them the bottle or breastfeeding and then they start drifting off right away? Or do they actively engage in the feeding for just a couple of minutes and then start drifting off? Or again, are they fully engaged in that feeding and taking what is like a normal daytime feeding during that nighttime feeding? And so this is going to give you data that we can then understand better what we need to do moving forward. And then what I want you to do with that is I want you to just like simply grab your phone, go into the Notes app, keep this super simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. Create a new note in your Notes app. I'm sure if you don't have iPhone, you have this on Google as well. I just don't know what it is. And you're going to put, let's say today is Monday. So we're going to say Monday feedings. And you're just going to type in 2 a.m. Baby fed for 2 minutes, started falling asleep. Then I started, taking them off the breast and putting them back into their crib. They started crying again. I picked them back up. They fed again for 2 minutes, started falling asleep. And then we repeated that cycle. Okay, that's all you're gonna do. You're gonna do what you would normally do, but you're just going to now make notes about what's actually happening during that time so that we know what we need to know to be able to move forward. Then next time they woke up again at 4 a.m. All right, so we're gonna make a note, 4 a.m. waking, here's what happened. They took a full 10-minute feeding. They then went back to sleep after that, and then you're gonna document the next feeding. Again, they woke up at 5 a.m. Here's what happened. Now we have data that we need to be able to understand, is my baby actually hungry, or are they using it for another purpose, or is it habitual? If they're waking up at the exact same time every night like clockwork, it is probably a habit. If they are waking up at random times and then they are starting to feed, starting to fall asleep, starting to feed, starting to fall asleep, then most likely they're needing it for comfort and for them to get help with going back to sleep and not necessarily for the actual feeding. If they're waking up, they're taking a full feeding and then they're going right back to sleep, they might actually need that feed, and shifting those calories to daytime is most likely going to help with that. Okay, so that is it for step 3. Don't change anything about your approach. All that we're doing is tracking what is happening, tracking how your baby is responding during those feedings, and walking away with some really valuable information. All right, so then step 4. Now that we know, do they actually need this feeding, and we are already shifting those calories to daytime, we can now start to approach the situation by starting to wean. And so you can approach this in a couple of different ways. We personally like to approach it in a very natural way. We like to basically let your baby take the lead, but this is in combination with teaching independent sleep. And you've probably heard us or other people talk about independent sleep a lot, and you're like, yeah, but what the F does that actually mean? It means that right now, your baby is most likely depending on you in one way or another in order to get to sleep. It might be that they are relying on you to feed them to sleep. It might mean they are needing you to rock them to sleep, to hold them, to comfort them in one way or another for them to fall asleep. And so all that we're doing is we are helping them build their confidence in their ability to get to sleep and back to sleep without relying on that support. And so this doesn't mean that we're just like leaving them alone to cry. It doesn't mean that we're just like letting them figure it all out on their own. We are supporting them through the process. Typically, you're going to choose a sleep training method that is going to help you support them through learning this skill. And what happens, it feels like magic most of the times, especially to parents who are like used to waking up every hour overnight and then all of a sudden their baby's sleeping like 6 to 8 hour stretches or more. It feels like magic and it feels like what the heck just happened. But what happens is whenever you are consistently teaching independent sleep and your baby starts getting it and they start figuring it out and they now know how to get back to sleep without calling out for you, they are not going to wake up for those night feedings. They naturally are going to now no longer need that comfort or that habit of getting back to sleep. They're going to wake up just like we all do in the middle of the night. It doesn't mean that they're never going to wake up in the middle of the night again. But when they do wake up, they're going to be able to, roll around, look around, realize I'm safe. I'm, in a place that I'm used to being in, my crib. I feel good. I'm tired. I'm going to go back to sleep. And right now what's happening is they are waking up, they're looking around. If they were rocked to sleep or fed to sleep, then they are like, oh my God, where am I? What happened? Last time I was awake, I was being held by my mom or my dad. What the heck happened? Where am I? What is going on? I'm tired. I want to be asleep, but I don't know how to get back to sleep. So I need my mom in here right now so she can help me get back to sleep. And then they scream or cry out or do whatever to get you back in the room, and that cycle continues. So when we're teaching independent sleep, this is going to allow them to feel confident in their ability to get back to sleep without calling out for you, which in turn typically leads to them no longer needing to wake up in the middle of the night for those feedings, which is awesome. And again, feels like magic. So you are going to choose a sleep training method or choose to work with us. We would love to support you on it if you want extra support throughout. And you are going to implement that method, teach them independent sleep. And in most cases, that is going to stop the night waking in and of itself without you having to do anything different. Now, step 5 is if you've already established independent sleep, your baby is falling to sleep and back to sleep independently, yet they are still waking once or twice during the night, and it seems like it's a habit because it's happening at the same time every night, and it is just, this repeated cycle that is continuing to happen, even though you've already implemented independent sleep. Then what you're going to do is you are going to go ahead and force the weaning in a more specific way than we normally do with the independent sleep teaching. So what this looks like, you're going to start with one feeding overnight. You're going to choose, let's say that your baby is still waking twice overnight. Let's choose that first feeding. We're going to then every night drop the amount of time that we are feeding them if you are breastfeeding, or we're going to drop the amount of ounces that you're feeding them if they are bottle fed. So let's say we're starting with a 2 a.m. feed. They wake up at 2 a.m. You're going to go in, get your baby. You're going to feed them 1 to 2 ounces less for formula fed babies, or 1 to 2 minutes less on breastfeeding babies for that feeding. And you're going to continue to drop that night after night until that feed is completely eliminated. So that means if your baby is currently breastfed and they are feeding 15 minutes at a time overnight, then the first night we're going to do 13 to 14 minutes. The next night we're going to do 11 or 12 to 13 minutes, depending on if you're doing 1 minute or 2 minutes, and so on and so forth until that feeding is gone. Once that feeding is gone, we're going to then attack the second feeding and do the exact same thing with that feeding. And so that is going to allow your baby to get used to shifting those calories to daytime, no longer needing that feeding overnight, and eventually just breaking that habit. Now, one super duper important thing that I need to mention here is, again, we have to have already established independent sleep in order for this to work. If we haven't established independent sleep, it's not going to matter what we do because they are just going to still rely on you feeding them to sleep or holding them to sleep in order for them to get back to sleep. They're going to continue night waking. They're going to continue calling out for you because they just simply don't know how to get back to sleep on their own. So once you have established independent sleep and then you're implementing this weaning process, the other important piece is you have to then put them back down awake after that feeding, even while you're doing this weaning process. They cannot feed to sleep and then you expect them to be able to learn this new routine. They have to be put back down in their crib awake. You have to be able to walk away from the room. They need to be able to see you walking away from the room and be able to put themselves back to sleep after that feeding. So that is one huge caveat you need to make sure is going. Okay, last thing, step 6, stay consistent. So once that feeding is gone, once we have fully eliminated that feeding, unless your baby is sick or something like that, we're not going to put that feeding back in place. We're going to continue with that feeding being gone. We're going to either sleep train through the process if the baby starts waking up again in the middle of the night. But we just need to stay consistent with our independent sleep habits that we have now instilled, that you've worked so hard to establish. We need to stay consistent in order for this to stick and in order for this to continue working the way that we need it to work. So if you have gone through all of this and you now feel like you have a good understanding of what to do next, but you're still wondering if you are really understanding how to know if they are actually waking because of hunger or habit, we have a video for that exactly where we break that down in even more detail. So you want to go watch that next. And if you are ready to get support with this entire process, if you're like, this all makes sense, but I don't want to do it alone, We have super inexpensive courses that are there to guide you through every step of the way. You can find that in our description below. We also have one-on-one support where we will literally be like holding your virtual hand and giving you an exact plan to follow and helping you through it every step of the way. So you can find a link below to schedule a call with Rachel on my team. She has literally worked with over 5,000 families herself and has been doing this for 11 years. She's incredible. So she will chat through it with you, see how she can help, and let you know what the best fit is for you and your family specifically. And that is it for today. We will see you right back here for our next video. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're not already a subscriber so that you can see all of our future videos that all include super helpful tips just like this.